ASICS sent me these SuperBlast 3s way back in December, which means I've probably logged more miles in them than anyone else reviewing them on the market right now. The problem is the SuperBlast 2s are actually my favorite all-time shoes. So when they told me they were going to release a third version, I was a little bit skeptical because I've tried the Mega Blast already and they are supposed to be fitting in with the Blast family, and it's safe to say they weren't better than the 2s. So the question is simple. Were ASICS able to build on what's already a near perfect shoe? Or did they miss the mark? Let's find out. This right here is the SuperBlast 3s, and before we get into the review, there's something that I want to make perfectly clear and get a few disclaimers out of the way. I did not buy these shoes. These were sent to me by ASICS, like I said, back in December for reviewing and testing. But I just want you to know that that doesn't influence or change my opinion on them. In fact, if anything, if I'm going to recommend you guys a shoe, it's going to be because I've genuinely tried and tested it, which is why I've waited so long to make this review. Secondly, no one is watching this video before it goes live. These are all my own opinions and they have not asked me to make this video for you. So if I am recommending something to you, it's because it's been tried and tested by myself and I genuinely stand by it. And finally, this is not going to be a first impressions video. I've actually logged over 100 miles in these shoes now, and I thought, what better way to put them to the test than through a marathon block. I'm currently week 10 of 16 into my marathon block, and these have been my shoes that I've been using the most throughout this training block. So it's safe to say I have put them through their paces. Now, if you have been following me or watching my channel for a while, you know that the SuperBlast 2s are literally my all-time favorite shoe. Not just one of my favorite shoes, my all-time favorites. It was just one of those shoes that can kind of do everything. You can do your tempos, you can do your speed sessions, you can do your track sessions, your long runs, your easy runs. You can wear them on a date, they'll give you some additional height. If I was traveling anywhere and could only pick one shoe, I'd reach for them every single time. And they managed to feel phenomenal without feeling slow. They managed to feel really cushioned but can still cover the whole speed range. So when ASICS announced that they were doing a SuperBlast 3s, I was a little bit skeptical, because when sometimes brands try to improve on something that is already great, they end up ruining it. So yeah, as soon as I got my hands on these, I asked myself the one question: were they able to actually improve on something that was pretty much near perfect, or did this miss the mark like the Mega Blast, in my opinion? Let's start with the specs, because there are actually some meaningful changes here. The SuperBlast 3 comes in at around 239 grams in a UK 9, which is my size. It's about 10 grams lighter than the previous version, which is impressive considering something else has also changed. The stack height itself has actually increased. You're now looking at roughly 46.5 millimeters in the heel, 38.5 millimeters in the forefoot, and an 8 millimeter drop, which puts this shoe firmly into the Super Max cushion territory. The biggest change though is actually the midsole foam. The SuperBlast 3 introduces FF Leap foam paired with the FF Blast cushioning. And FF Leap is interesting because it's exactly the same foam that's used in the highest end racing shoes. And they claim in the presentation that it's about 15% more energy return compared to the previous versions. So what they've basically done is taken the race day level foam and then built a daily trainer around it. A Super Max shoe, which is why people are calling it a super trainer. The upper itself has also been updated. It's now a woven engineered mesh that adapts to the foot a bit better and improves the midfoot lockdown. It's breathable, lightweight, and overall very comfortable. In terms of aesthetics, this one is super subjective, but I mean, it looks cool and it's kind of got this heat map looking thing going on. I'm not personally a fan of super bold, super bright colors. It's not the worst that I've seen. I'm just not the biggest fan of bright purple. Especially if you live in the UK where it's kind of grey all the time. I guess a pop of colour makes you stand out a little bit, but I stick to my triple whites and triple blacks. But now let's talk about the most important thing, and it's how does it feel to actually run in? And first impression compared to right now, phenomenal, and right now, phenomenal. The first thing you notice, like straight off the bat, as soon as you put them on, it's a very snug fit, but it also is very, very bouncy. You feel like you're getting a lot of return per step. The shoe does have a lot of foam underfoot, but it doesn't feel mushy and you don't feel like you're sinking in. If anything, as you sink and as you're about to bounce back out, you do feel like that foam really decompresses and shoots you forward again. The combination of the FF Leap and the FF Blast really create a ride that, for me, feels soft, lightweight, and really, really... what's the word I'm looking for? Responsive. Took me so long. responsive. They feel responsive. But I've done my tempos in them, I've done my speed, I've done my intervals, and I've done my slow runs, and like they kind of cover the whole range. And you do get that responsiveness. You get that cushioning when you're running slow, and you get that responsiveness when you're running fast. The other thing that I did notice was that the weight to cushion ratio, normally when a shoe gets bigger or higher, it starts to get heavier, but they've actually managed to bring this down in weight, which is, it's, you know, a feat of engineering. But really you do notice the difference in the 10 grams. I know it's only 10 grams, but when you're talking 20, 30, 40 kilometers down, you are feeling the difference of that 10 grams per step. And that's all I'm going to say on weight and distance before I get cancelled. So the big question is it better than the SuperBlast 2s? And in my honest opinion, yeah, it is. The SuperBlast 2 were an incredible shoe, and it felt stable and smooth over long distances. But the SuperBlast 3s to me just feel a little bit more energetic. It feels like everything that I loved about the 2s, but just times 1.5, times 1.15 if you want to go with that 15% energy addition. It feels like it's got more bounce and more propulsion, and it feels a little bit more modern, I guess, in terms of the materials used. But the core identity of the shoe itself, to me, hasn't changed. It's a super max cushion daily trainer that does everything you need it to and nothing more. And that's exactly why the SuperBlast itself has a cult following. And now to quickly touch on the Mega Blast, because I know people are going to ask. For me, the Mega Blast felt more tailored to a specific kind of trainer. It wasn't as much of an all-rounder, and it just didn't have that same kind of oomph, is the best way to describe it. Still a great shoe, and like I said, still part of my rotation. But if I could only choose one that I'd be traveling with, or if I could only choose one that I would recommend for you to purchase between the two, I'd go SuperBlast 2s, SuperBlast 3s, both before I go Mega Blast. The good thing about the SuperBlast is that no matter what run you have on your plan today, you can always just reach for them and know you're going to be okay. Whereas I don't think the Mega Blast gave you that versatility. Now, the one downside of the SuperBlast that I think we do need to address is the price. It's not a cheap daily trainer, but it's going to last. And does it live up to the price point? Is it worth that much? I genuinely think so. I think this can replace a super shoe. You can run, I've run marathons in this, you can run marathons in this, but you can also do your easy runs and your long runs. You can do a whole training block in just the one shoe. So instead of maybe getting a cheaper daily trainer and then also having to get a race day shoe, I think if you grab one of these, it justifies the price point. They come in at around £200 or $210, which is a little bit more expensive than the previous generation as well. But like I said, totally justified in my opinion on the price point. The best way to describe this shoe is probably the best non-plated super shoe on the market. And yes, I'd recommend them for every single one of your races and your training. Would I recommend these over the SuperBlast 2s? Also, yes. I think we're going to run into the same issues that we ran into with the SuperBlast 2s themselves, and that the stock on these is probably going to be very, very limited. So if you do have an opportunity to buy them, don't sit down and dwindle and don't think about it. Make sure that you do just add to basket and click checkout, because you might not be able to get your hands on these for a while. And with that being said, I can confidently say ASICS did not ruin the SuperBlast. Thank God. If you do have any questions about the shoe itself or any questions about my shoe rotation, then make sure you leave them down in the comments below. I'm more than happy to provide more information regarding this and any other shoe on the market. And if you want to see these shoes in action for a marathon attempt, then make sure you watch my Seville video where I pace my friend to his PB. And if you also want to see what shoes I'm going to be wearing for my marathon attempt, then make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for the next few videos, because I'm going to be showing you exactly what my training looks like for a 2:30 marathon.